Let's go.
Hey everyone, and welcome back or welcome to my channel. Today's topic will be where are they now mixed with whether the produce curse has kind of gotten to them. With it being 2 years since IZ*ONE completed their temporary contracts, I wanted to see how they were doing now in relation to the produce curse. The produce curse has a slight variation to its meaning depending on the person, but to me, it's basically not leveraging the success achieved onto their post-produce activities. The plan is to talk about each IZ*ONE member's career in a general sense in order to gauge how well they are doing and I guess whether they've transcended beyond the memories of IZ*ONE. Note that I'll be using the term produce curse real loosely in order to make definite assessments in deciding whether they've kind of basically done better post IZ*ONE. Plus, this will be my personal perspective, which may be different from yours, so always feel free to drop your opinions down in the comments below. But yeah, before I start, I'd appreciate it if you could like and subscribe to my channel. Without further ado, let's go in order of their ranks and start with 12th place. Starting off, we have Chaeyeon, who joined Street Woman Fighters soon after IZ*ONE disbanded. The show gave her more attention, both in a good and bad way. She was able to show off her dancing skills once again, but there was also discussions made toward the stark skill contrast between actual dancers and idol dancers, which she did end up getting a redemption arc of getting some respect in the end. Besides that, she would kind of stay quiet until a year and a bit later, in which she would be the last IZ*ONE member to debut with Hush Rush. The debut was met with mixed reception, in part due to the music direction, which was completely different from the expectations of what she could have brought for her debut. Due to the shorter attention span of K-pop listeners, this left Chaeyeon in a position where her music wasn't strong enough to quote-unquote justify the decision to continue following her heavily. This may explain the decreased album sales with her comeback single, which these days are usually made up largely from loyal fandom hype. However, the reception was a bit better, which could help her push her in the right direction to gain more momentum in the future. Coming off this release, she has now been confirmed to be participating in the upcoming Queendom puzzle, which seems like another survival program, but this time for idols with not as fruitful careers. Pairing on this will make it her 5th survival show and kind of also indicates that she kind of hasn't been popping off considering the amount of activity she has done to put herself out there. Thus, I would say she's kind of been impacted by the produce curse. Returning to urban works, Minju had not really been doing much post IZ*ONE. Deciding to focus more on acting, she moved companies to Soup Management, a predominantly acting-focused company. So far, she's only landed one supporting role in the K-drama The Forbidden Marriage, in which she received an award for Best New Actress in the 2022 MBC Drama Awards. She had also left her hosting role as MC of MBC's Show Music Corps in January 2023, which low-key is also the same network that awarded her the Best New Actress Award. So is there a correlation? Regardless, leaving the hosting role means she won't be seen in the spotlight as much for K-pop viewers, so these next few years will kind of determine whether the acting will speak for itself. Obviously, I shouldn't judge based on one acting performance, but for the purpose of this video, I'm gonna say she's been kind of impacted by the produce curse, just because there hasn't been things lined up to show how in demand she is. Do note that this isn't the end all be all, and that she can obviously thrive eventually. Chaewon was the only member to really deviate from everybody's expectation. Instead of joining Rocket Punch or going solo, Chaewon left Woollim and transferred to Hybe's Source Music, where she would train to debut in Le Seraphim with Sakura. Considering the power of Hybe, there was definitely going to be noise for their debut, so they back that up with pretty good music, breaking many records that were recently set and broken by other newly debuted groups. The Seraphine's concept felt like a full 180 change for Chaewon and reintroduced her in a more different light. Their success was legit as their anti-fragile comeback established themselves as monster rookies, earning 1 million album sales with just their second overall release. Having recently made their debut in Japan, as well as releasing a full-length album, their career trajectory continues to skyrocket as Chaewon is thrown more into the spotlight and surpasses her former IZ*ONE era. In terms of other solo projects, she's kind of, for the most part, focused primarily on the Seraphine, with the only exception being a cast member on the variety show Hae Mi Lee Ye Che Pa. Despite maybe a lack of solo activities, this clearly has not stopped her, as she for sure has not been impacted by the produce curse. After IZ*ONE, Hitomi joined back AKB48 and utilized that fame to position herself as a more prominent face for AKB48. She's been able to secure the choreo center position, creating her own cosmetic brand, as well as appearing as a main role on a Japanese show. From where she was before and after IZ*ONE, she has definitely been able to achieve more, which makes me want to say that she's not been impacted by the produce curse as much. Returning to 8D Creative, Hyewon has kind of been doing things, but also not really. She released a special winter album that did pretty decent in terms of album sales, considering there wasn't an intent for it to be promoted. She also released a one-off single in collaboration with Stella Jang called Like a Diamond. However, her focus might be on acting potentially, as she starred as the main role in 2 web dramas. Besides that though, there hasn't been much news about her career activities since August 2022. Not gonna lie, but she doesn't scream, I have a passion to be in this industry. So I expected her to just kind of do her own thing with the fan base she has. But yeah, I would say kind of impacted by the produce curse, but also maybe it's a her thing too? Or would that be kind of BM to say? Unlike Chaewon, Eunbi stayed with Willem and was the first member within IZ*ONE to make her debut. Eunbi would continue the theme of music within her different ventures, as she would join a musical, release some OSTs, and obviously continue releasing music as a soloist. However, her solo career has not seen that much success, considering she was one of the more hyped members to go solo. Her album sales would have a slow decline, with very little reception from the general public. This might explain her appearance this year in the VR survival show Reverse, in which they wanted to debut a virtual girl group. I didn't get to watch much of it, but I do know that she did end up winning first place and thus debuted as the center of this VR girl group. But yeah, unfortunately, I would say that she's been impacted by the produce curse. Nako would return to HKT48 and immediately secure the center position for their next comeback. However, last year, she did announce her graduation from HKT48, with her farewell taking place this year in April. Leaving the idol life behind, her future aspirations have geared more towards pursuing acting. Despite this all being fresh and her future being an empty canvas for her to kind of pursue, I'ma say that Nako low-key was impacted by the produce curse. Definitely not in a severe way, but in the sense of none of her pursuits have really been impactful in a way where I feel like she utilized that pre-debut fame combined with IZ*ONE fame effectively. But obviously, like I said with Minju, within a few years, things could change. Returning back to Starship, Yujin was an immediate preparations, as her and Wonyoung would debut in Starship's new girl group IVE. Their debut song, 11, was well received, breaking records like achieving 13 music show wins and even accruing 10 wins for their next comeback. Their first year was strong, as you couldn't really escape IVE, which can be seen as they would win both Rookie Awards and even Daesung Awards. They would continue the formula of single albums, with the next one being their first album to achieve 1 million album sales before they would release their full-length album this year. Besides IVE, Yujin has been busy promoting both herself and IVE through her MC roles, becoming a more prominent variety idol through her appearance as a cast member for Arcade Show, as well as releasing a sponsored Gatorade collab single with Kang Daniel and Kim Yuna. For me, she's kind of existed during IZ*ONE, but it wasn't until their final promotion cycle, especially during Sequence, in which she stood out a lot. From that, she's been able to transfer that energy into IVE and basically hasn't been impacted at all by the produce curse. Yena's return was probably one of the more discussed, as her label mate during her Produce 48 era had debuted in Everglow. So the question on everybody's mind was whether to add her onto the lineup or not. She ended up going the soloist route and debuted with Smiley. This was met with positive reception, as she was the only former IZ*ONE soloist to hit the 6-digit figures within album sales. Her most recent comeback, Love War, saw a minor decrease in album sales, but still within the 6-digit range. It also wasn't properly promoted, and so to achieve all of that with the lack of promotion is kind of a good indicator of how well she's been doing. Other than that, she's been making appearances here and there within Korean variety programs, with the most recent one being a cast member on Haemiliye Chepa with Chaewon. I would say she's done well for herself and hasn't really been impacted by the produce curse, considering the success she has been able to continue to accrue. Yuri would return to Stone Music and debut as a soloist with Glassy. It was received pretty decently, with pretty decent album sales. However, her most recent release of Lovable saw a drastic drop to almost more than half the album sales from her previous release, which became her peak. She also starred in 2 web series and sang some OSTs, but other than that, she's been pretty quiet. I feel like this might be kind of the reason as to why we might see the numbers continue to drop off. She doesn't seem too active within the industry, and with the increased competition within K-pop, it seems like the hype she's gained from IZ*ONE has begun to dwindle potentially. And thus, I guess she would be another member starting to potentially get impacted by the produce curse. After IZ*ONE's disbandment, Sakura would return to HKT48 for a bit, as a month later would we hear her announced graduation. It would not be until March 2022 when we would hear news of Sakura joining Source Music with Chaewon, which I basically covered the gist of Le Seraphim in Chaewon's part, so feel free to go back to her section to hear that part of Sakura's idol career. But yeah, in terms of solo stuff, she has her own web show called Fearless Kura, plus she signed with AM Entertainment for her individual activities in Japan. I would say her group activities along with her solo activities have reinforced her popularity. She was a prominent face of IZ*ONE, where they only had a few stand out, but within Le Seraphim, everybody kind of stands out in their own ways, and so it's divvied up a bit more, but still doesn't take away from the fact that she's definitely not been impacted by the produce curse. And finally, we have Wonyoung, who returned back to Starship with Yujin to debut in IVE, which, once again, I basically did the rundown during Yujin's part, so feel free to go back there if you need a refresher. But other than her IVE activities, she's solidified her societal nickname as one of the prominent It Girls of 4th Gen, as well as securing many endorsements. She's also been able to dabble in many other activities similar to Yujin, being an MC, as well as doing a Pepsi promotional single with members from Oh My Girl and Gravity. This one feels like a no-brainer, and that she's definitely not fallen to the produce curse. Despite the massive hate train that she's gotten, which I do have a video on that, the hate is a small fraction of the fame and popularity that she's gained. Final thought. From the 12 members, Wonyoung, Sakura, Yena, Yujin, Chaewon, and Hitomi are the members who I think have broken the produce curse, quote unquote, with their career trajectories looking really well. But like I've said, and hopefully you watch up to this part, I use the term produce curse real loosely, and obviously there are other factors of produce curse to explain the reason for all of their careers, I guess. Also, success is a real subjective term depending on how you want to measure it. But yeah, that's it for the video. Thanks for watching, and let me know your thoughts on the post IZ*ONE careers of all the members and which members you're excited to follow maybe, or even just worried about. If you want to chat about the other produced groups, do feel free to drop a comment about them. I low-key want to do one for IOI too, but I've seen a few of them, so I feel like it's been done considering they're the quote-unquote main culprits and I guess the originators of starting the produce curse, I get. But yeah, my next video will be about filler members within K-pop groups, which I'm currently trying to tread lightly with how I'm phrasing things. So if you're interested at all, please like and subscribe to keep up to date, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!